You guys ready?
Yeah,
We're starting?
we're ready.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Hi, I'm Perrin Woods, and welcome to a Walk in the Woods podcast. This is a podcast we're going to release on some sort of schedule. It's been a bit since our last recording.
Way too long.
And in this podcast, we'll research topics. We come up with questions, answer them for ourselves, and then we're going to teach it to each other and our viewers.
Fun.
So here joining me today is Leo.
I'm here. What's up?
Elliot.
Hey, what's up? Sorry, I'm away from my mic. Okay, I'm here.
And Nalin.
Hello, all.
So, let's just jump into it.
Should we?
Let us obtain.
You guys want to start with a little history?
History.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I don't see why not.
All right, cool. So I'm bringing some stuff about the Battle of Hastings. It was in 1066. This thing was really neat because, for one thing, people claim it's like the most important battle in English history, and that's very debatable. But it's pretty important because this battle, the entire thing that happened here, the Norman invasion of England, it changed the course of the English language. This, without this, English would not be what it is today. So
Wild.
Now, was it for good or for bad? I think we should get it.
That's deep
debatable.
Yeah.
That's very debatable.
It's more French, so.
Ooh,
Whoa.
I love French.
True.
Français.
So, here's how it started. So it's 1911. Imagine this, 1911. It ain't 1911. Whoa.
This
I'm
ain't
starting
it.
us off all wrong. It's 9/11. It's 911.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
Whoa.
my bad. So think like Vikings, it's not even really like Dark Ages, right? So you got this Viking chief who was fighting the French. He was called Rollo, and
Rollo?
Rollo. I'm not kidding.
How do you spell
Rollover.
Rollo.
Wow.
Rollo.
it sounds like a character from Game of Thrones.
Probably was.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
So he was fighting the French, and then they made peace. And so he was offered a large area in northern France as part of a peace treaty. This is, surprise, surprise, what later would be called Normandy. So
Is that in the south of...
No, it's in the north of France.
No, of England, right?
No, it's France.
Wait!
There is a place.
There is a
there's
Normandy
a place
in
in England called Normandy.
But this area,
okay.
the area
Right.
called Normandy is in France.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm not stupid.
No,
Wanting
no,
to
no,
learn.
you're
Nor
not.
am I.
I'm
You're,
kidding, guys.
you're Leo.
Yeah.
Stop it,
Okay.
Perrin.
So-
Okay, so we are officially kicking Perrin from the podcast.
Perrin, go. Leave.
All right, so these Vikings, they adopted the French language and culture. They were assimilated. So
Cultural diffusion.
yeah. So that's the background done. So things start heating up when Edward the Confessor, what a name.
Damn.
Edward the Confessor, King of England. So he kicks the bucket, and Harold Godwin is elected to succeed him.
But did he confess to his own murder?
Who knows?
So,
This was interesting, just like the name. So he was elected by a council of high-ranking men. It was an Anglo-Saxon Witan, which I just thought that was a weird weird word. Witan, Witan.
that's my new name.
Wait, what's
Leo-
what's
Within the
origin?
Confessor.
It's
Leo
like a
Witan.
council of high-ranking men, Anglo-Saxon.
in Normandy? Or in the Anglo-Saxon
England. So that's interesting. So William of Normandy is pretty upset with this. I'm gonna go invade your country. Upset with this, because he was promised the crown by Edward. He claimed. Remember, Edward's the guy who just died.
The king
And actually,
of
he was
England?
the prior king of England. So he had made a deal with William, as William claimed that William was gonna get to be the next king. And he even bamboozled Harold into supporting this.
Did you say bamboozled?
Get
I did.
bamboozled.
So William was like, you know what? I'm done with this. To arms, men. And he goes and he does it. He takes his swords and he prepares to invade England. Now we're gonna do a flashback right here. So it's Harold. So he's got this brother, Toastig.
Toast this bread.
Toastig.
Maybe that's not how you pronounce it.
This is so good. Toastig.
Oh, don't worry, it gets better. More names can barely pronounce. So he teams up with the King of Norway at the time. He knows Norwegian, so this is going to be hard. Harold Hardrada. Thanks.
Hardrada. There's
Hardrada.
he has two other names as well. There's
you know
I don't
you're
remember
famous when you got
what
multiple names.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is, but he's also called by the English translation of Hardrada, which is like
Hardrada.
No, it's hard something. I don't remember what it is.
Who knows?
But then there's also another one, and it's bugging me, but it starts with an S, and I can, I'll find out later.
Come back to us on this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here's the
After
King
the
of
wedding.
Norway, and these two they're like, I want to be king. Let's invade England. So at the same time as William's invading England with the Norman forces, these Vikings are coming and invading. So they land up in Yorkshire. They land a bit before him, and so Harold brings his army. Now this is Harold, King of England. There's two Harolds here.
This is getting a little bit
Oh
confusing.
yes, all the
Strange.
names. So King of England comes over here and he wins, but it was a big fight. He killed an entire invasion force. He also kills both his brother and the Norwegian king. So he wins against them, and he hears, "Hey, you just won, but like 2 days ago, people landed in the south, and there's a big army, boys. We gotta go." Of course, I didn't say that, but
No,
sure
that
they
was an
say
exact
that.
translation. That was a perfect
It was a
recreation of it.
quotation. So these guys know that there's this army invading. So he leads his own like pretty worn out army at this point down to go fight William's, and of course William won. If you have a depleted army, you're most likely gonna lose. Harold actually died. Harold, King of England. He died because an arrow struck him in the eye.
Wow.
Ooh.
That's a good way to die.
I have an update on that name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
but
go
it's-
ahead.
It's
It was like a newscast, Nailing with an update.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
So the Old Norse name is Harald Sigurdsson.
Ooh.
Sigurdsson. I think it's similar to that. I'm very, very bad at Scandinavian pronunciation.
Who isn't?
Scandinavians.
If I had an accent, it would be better. And then Hardrada actually translates to stern counsel or hard ruler.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's that.
All right. Interesting. So,
Wait, Perrin,
Back to
Yeah.
the story.
you've heard of Achilles' heel. Now get ready for Harold's eye.
Different Harold than Hardrada.
yes.
Yeah, this is
So-
getting so confusing. man.
Okay.
Hey, it's European history right there. It's all confusing with the kings, queens, etc.
I can attest.
of
So William, Duke William of Normandy. This is the guy. He's all we care about now. He won, and now he's coronated Christmas Day of 1066.
Yay.
So
Wait,
this
am I
is
supposed to be cheering for that?
I don't know.
it doesn't really sure. So the Doomsday, or is it I think it's Doomsday. Is it Domsday or Doomsday? I want to say it's Doomsday. It sounds much more dramatic, but it's Domsday.
Sounds like a
How's it spelled?
Transformers movie.
It's 1-0. It's
Aw.
Domesday. But I want it to be the Doomsday Book. But this was like this is where my history part of the story ends. It was compiled 20 years after the Battle of Hastings, and it showed all the landholders and estates throughout England. And this kind of like showed off how the Normans had kind of taken over. It was basically a census. It's actually pretty cool for the time. That's the end of the history part. Now comes the fun part that we can talk more about.
This is where the fun
So-
begins.
The English language was heavily influenced by the Normans because when they invaded, they wanted to change a lot of stuff. Like now that William's the ruler, he made French the language of the court. So for a significant amount of time, I don't know the exact bit. Obviously, not for too long. French was the language of the court. So there was a lot of French speaking among the nobility. This led to a lot of French diffusing into English, some directly borrowed words, some not. Interesting fact for you, I'm gonna hit you with a big number. 1/3 of English vocab is directly or indirectly taken from French.
Wow.
1/3 of modern English.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
So isn't like English considered like a Germanic language, even though it has a lot of roots?
Anglo-Saxon was like pretty darn.
Well, no, it is considered Germanic because
Anglo-Saxon was purely Germanic, right?
Well, yeah, because of the area. So,
and this is how English originated as a Germanic language, but it was just like a bunch of stuff was thrown at it. I've got another thing that was thrown at it here. Norse. Remember how we were talking about how those Vikings tried to invade? Yeah, other Vikings tried to invade multiple times. Some of them had succeeded. So we've got some actual borrowed words from Norse. Actually, something, and this happened in Norse language and in ours. SK words changed to a CH sound. I believe.
Yeah.
We actually have some of those directly borrowed words from Older Norse that use the SK, like skull or skirt. Both of those are direct borrowings from Older Norse. So skull, that word, has been around for a long time.
Wait, so it was originally spelled. Are you saying it was originally?
No, it was originally spelled like it is today,
but we still keep that spelling.
and we still keep the SK despite that change in the way that they spoke.
Skirt.
So if you want some examples of like French words, beef, bovine, and royal are all words that came from French. Bovine actually was both French and Latin because, of course, French is a Romance language. It came from Latin.
Right.
So English also has Latin influence, and some of that is like Latin to French to English. Some of that is just Latin to English.
Right.
It's very complicated.
All I know is that in French, beef is le boeuf. That's one of my vocab words this week. So
Wait, so it's Shia beef?
Yes, it is. Yes, he eats a lot of beef in his spare time.
So I don't know if you have this on the list, but another thing that was changed in the English language from not the Normans but from the older Viking invasions was plurals for words.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you'd have an example would be singular tree. All right.
Right.
It's a tree, a tree. Trees would be trien.
Trien.
Yeah. So you'd have an en ending on there. And when the Vikings invaded, they actually didn't like that, and it in all seriousness, it confused the heck out of them. So
Confuses me. I see why.
And so they changed the en ending to an s ending. Trien, trees.
Oh, so trien was singular? Oh,
trien
no,
was plural.
Yeah.
They changed the plural ending from an en to an s.
Right.
And they did some other stuff as well, but that's the only one that I remember so far.
Yeah. So I'm curious because you two were bringing it up earlier. Do you think this is a good or bad change? Like, do you think it can be qualified like that? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't think like a change in language can be necessarily deemed as right or wrong, and
right
it
wrong,
might just because I don't really hear a lot of arguments, why it's good or bad. Like when it comes to language, like, a lot of people aren't really so opinionated on where language comes from and how they like that change. I mean, honestly, I think that it's cool that English has a lot of French elements, and that also English is just like a conglomerate of a lot of different languages.
Maybe that's what makes it so confusing.
Right. I mean, to like people like learning English, like English is a hard language to learn, and like French and German, languages like that are more structured.
Yeah.
They have rules even though they break them. And I think English is just a weird language, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Got anything on this, Elliot? Or are you good?
So originally that whole thing, like, was it a good change? I kind of meant that as a joke, but like, I feel like if I were to learn the old language before, like
right, like the language that Beowulf was written in, which is a different language.
Yeah,
entirely.
What is
Old English.
Old English.
Yeah,
no. Like,
if
I've never read Beowulf.
So Beowulf is
okay.
in Old English.
Yeah.
I'm not going to recap the story. A dude goes and kills some monsters. That's all you need to know.
That sums it up right there.
How is it like?
So you know how there's Shakespearean English, which is also called Middle English.
Yeah.
That's still understandable by us.
Old English was
English
100% a different language.
It doesn't even use characters that we carry through today.
Really? What did it sound like?
That's crazy.
Well, it sounds like a mixture of Danish and German.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's really, really weird, but it's really, really cool.
So it's like Scandinavian.
Well, it is. Well, it has some Scandinavian,
Germanic.
like except from the old Viking stuff. But
if you speak German and if you speak Danish, like our resident native here, would you be able to understand it at all?
No.
No.
I mean, there are a couple words that carry over into normal English,
but remember that this is old German and old Scandinavian.
That's
this
so
is
crazy.
so.
It's like a new language.
Yeah, it is.
It's like how Latin's a dead language. Old English is a dead language because it's now English as it is today.
Yeah,
it's evolved.
Language is like an ever-evolving structure.
Which is actually a point to show that you can't say change in a language is either good or bad.
Right.
So like I feel like if we were able to learn Old English and compare it to like now, I mean,
we can learn it.
Well, we can, but like if we could like know it like in a snap, like if we could just know it fluently, and we could compare it to today's English, if we had opinions on it, I feel like we could like say that it was better or worse. But like because it would take so long, and it's not like we're not completely fluent in it,
But what makes the language better or worse?
The way that the sentences are structured, for me personally.
Like
I have trouble with German about like the sentence structure.
Does it come to being easier or harder to learn? Is that what makes a difference for you?
I don't know. I mean, like I've only learned German, so if there was like another thing that was easier to learn.
You're speaking English. How have you only learned?
Okay, I've only learned one that I.
You've only learned a single second.
I mean, I kind of understand that. Like, I understand how, like, languages can actually seem better or worse, and that makes sense. Because, like, there are languages that might be easier to learn, and that might make somebody think, oh, I like that language more. But, personally, I think, like, a lot of languages just sound really good. Like, I really like Brazilian Portuguese. That sounds so good, and, like, Italian and French. I really like those languages. They just kind of sound good to me. I don't know.
Though in writing, I think, to me, French seems very confusing.
Oh, I mean, I don't like writing French. I love speaking French. Yeah.
You have that fluidity.
Sure. I don't get it.
Yeah. I guess we sum that by saying, like, language is like, I don't know, it's like arguing over the passing of time. Like, there's, it just does. It's not like,
it just do. It do be like that.
It just do be like that sometimes.
Just be like that, Chief.
Well, it's bad that time continues on. Like,
I mean, it's bad that like my chemistry homework is due on Monday. Like.
It's bad that you can't preserve one moment forever. Like a happy moment. You can do it in memories, but like
I mean photographs much.
But that doesn't really capture.
Yes, it
does.
Well, I guess it does.
For you,
okay. For
we've gotten from like a historical event to the idea of like the movement of time.
So shall we move from history? No, I know you have another history related thing, but let's move to something else. One of you two want to take it over?
What do you got?
I have this is Scandinavian. We're talking about Finland.
Hey,
okay.
Hey.
So
the weird one.
A good way to, I think, like if we did.
It's only weird because it's the odd one out.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a rise in popularity. There's people are talking about this. I think for the past many years about Finland's education system.
I remember there was like something in elementary school. They were like, use these books. The Finnish. What
Yes,
is it?
Finnish.
Yeah, Finnish.
Yeah.
The Finnish use them. They must be godlike or
Yes,
something like
I
that.
am a huge advocate for changing our school system to the school system of.
Let's
So
let Leo tell us.
we're all in high school. We all kind of have experienced the U.S. Common Core education system. We've all gone through this whole this whole experience of going to different grades
Right.
and all this, and we kind of have an idea of what our education is like. And a lot of people here are like, oh, I wish like this was different. And I think that I heard about this a couple of years ago, and I was like, it was crazy, like the way Finland educates students, mainly elementary age to high school age kids. I'm not sure if it goes like I'm pretty sure that this is the only that's the extent of the research I've done, like about like I haven't gotten into like higher education.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's entirely different because it's entirely different for higher education.
Right.
Just the entire.
Too.
Here
Yeah.
even it's
so it's a
system's completely different.
it's a different day.
I think you can argue that college is much better structured here in the U.S. compared to our like primary education stuff.
Yeah, I'd
I
say so
have
too.
no
I
idea.
would- I
I've
mean-
only researched like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, Leo, sorry, continue.
Let's get into it. Why is the Finnish education system so interesting? I'm using a great article from the New York Times. Just shout out to the New York Times.
Name drop.
Name drop. Totally.
Drop
Complete
names.
plug-in.
Read the article because I just read it and it's really good. It's called quote from Finland, an intriguing school reform model.
You can check that out with our sources, which we will try and link this time.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Written by Jenny Anderson. Just shout out to Jenny Anderson.
All right.
That
Leo.
lovely-
All right, okay, enough shouting out.
Tell us
Okay,
anyway.
it's a good article. Read it, because it's really informative. Essentially, it's about how the Finland education system does not focus really on testing and these values that we've kind of come to know in the U.S. Like, we have a test every week in a lot of different subjects, and there's a midterm test and a final test,
Right.
and we're always just kind of we're graded on our comprehension of these things, like science, math, and so in Finland, like it's kind of different because the whole education system is structured in a way that tries to get kids ready for their future and put them in a good place in society. And a large part of that is that they don't go to school as much as we do.
Really?
Right, yeah,
And
they-
then they don't go to school as much, and they get a better education.
That's
They
right.
Yeah.
they go to
Really?
school less than us, and they have a much better overall GPA throughout the
Right.
country.
Well,
Right.
Leo, how much do they go to school for? How
Well,
long?
that's a good question. I don't think it cites specifically in this. But yeah, I just think it's fewer times a week.
And
so it's like 4 days or
I believe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry for my ignorance on the topic.
no,
but,
you're
you know,
fine.
it's fine.
We're having connectivity issues. So I think it's I think it's a good question. Like, why is the Finland education? Why does it set students up for more success? Even though they spend less time in school, why is it so? Why does it help them so much?
Well, my question would be, how do they verify like a student's like? This may just be like my ignorance, but like tests, I think, do have merit if they aren't testing per se? Like, how are they judging, like, how a student is doing and what they can do to help that? Or is it like some sort of review process? What do they do that's better than what we have here?
Right. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, hey, I can't answer that. You know, like Wi-Fi is not up. So.
They still have tests, right? It's just a lot less and
so like
a lot less and.
In high school, like they said that there is some testing that does.
There is testing, but it's less of them and they're more meaningful. It's less like testing your knowledge of what you did right then, right there, and if you can remember back.
It's like just the regions, basically.
It's more than just the regions, but it's
right. Of course.
I'm pretty sure it's something like once every 2 months, once every 1.5 months. I feel like I read that somewhere. I can't.
Basically,
don't
like
trust me on that.
But... Basically, like it's essentially like baseline testing style.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But another thing that
we don't know if this is for sure.
That's me asking.
Another thing that I remember reading was it's a very anti-stress thing. Like there's a lot less homework to the point where most of the time there's no homework, and like that's what I've read, and like that anti-stress really helps out the kids. Like our school systems here are completely based around getting way too much homework, way too many tests.
Well, teach to the test as well, which is another big thing. Actually, is teaching to the test, because teachers teach to what they know is going to be on an exam that is sanctioned by the state for the kids.
The goal is to do the test.
Yes. Whereas the overall goal should moreover be
preparing students for society.
Preparing students for society, but also just teaching them. It shouldn't be, oh, we have to get you ready for this test as the final goal. It should be, oh, we're going to teach you stuff and it's going to benefit you and make you a better person in today's society when you finish school and get out there.
I mean, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, thanks. Like, I was just thinking, so, because if you spend less time in school, like, I think that kind of allows you to be a kid and to be a student. And I think that's really important because, you know, we spend a lot of our time just, you know,
thinking about school in school.
Exactly. We wake up early, go to school, get back, you know, do all of our homework,
stay up till like 1 o'clock.
Sure, well, some kids.
That you can argue that in general, that's more of a choice on time planning.
But
but there's also stuff like
sometimes if you overload on like extracurricular, that can be an issue.
But I've actually had days before where I haven't had any extracurriculars. And I've still been up till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night doing homework.
And that's
only.
not because of like procrastination.
No, I've been like on it and steadily doing it.
I just want to
go ahead. Yeah.
Say one thing is our education system really like it makes kids feel like they're obligated to do extracurricular activities, and like they really like for colleges and to put on resumes and stuff, and that's like, you know, something that's taking up a lot of time and forcing kids to like do that quite late into like dinner time, then do all their homework really late at night.
I think that's only a problem because of the homework. If we didn't have the same homework structure that we do now, then I actually think that it would be fine. And like I do a lot of extracurriculars, but I really enjoy that, and I'm willing to put off homework and do it later for those extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, one thing. Sorry. No, you were gonna go?
Yeah, sure. Can I kind of play? We gotta wrap this up here, this part. But before that, I want to have a little more discussion. I want to play devil's advocate a little here. I think that our system has like the teachers might be right in teaching to the test, because I think that our society focuses more on parents teaching their kids how to function as an adult. Like that's what we try to say. You see a lot of stuff of very like parents connecting with their kids, with teaching them how to drive, teaching them how to do many different things. So like it's very more engaged with your parents. They're supposed to teach you how to be a functioning a functioning person in society.
Right.
And school prepares you for going to college or going into a more entry level job.
Right. So one thing that I want to say is that, like, imagine being a student and having enough free time to do what you really like to do. Imagine doing more reading, doing more writing on your own, whatever your interests are. You could make art, you could learn about things that you want to learn about. And that, I think that's a really important part of being a student and being, a kid, growing up. It's that you discover things like art and that you have free time to do what you really want to do.
Well, I think that we should start to wrap things up here. We'll go with one more topic. Here, you guys want to talk about history or music?
Who wants it?
It's,
History, music.
You two.
Rock, paper, scissors.
World War One
two,
or something else.
3, 2, 1.
Fight. All right, scissors. Got paper and paper.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right.
We're doing World War.
We're doing history. Perrin,
give us a little background.
You spoiler.
Here. My bad.
Okay. So, 1918 was the final year of World War I. And 2018 is obviously 100 years later.
Really?
Yeah, I know, right? It's a complete shocker.
I had to do it.
So, on the... on September... Oh boy.
September.
On September.
Insert date here.
Yes. It's not September. November. Oh my god.
November. We're going for November. Anyone want to place your bets on the date?
Get a November.
We got a November.
Let's see.
Leo.
Let's see.
What are you thinking? November what?
50th.
Okay. On November 11th.
I was close.
November 11th. The World War I ended.
The World War One.
Yes,
The
World War One.
Wait, I thought it was both of them.
The both of them.
Both of them? No, World War II.
World War
is
II is
1940s.
I'm kidding. You guys know I'm not.
yeah, we know. So World War ended on November 11th, which is actually next week. But
don't date it.
But
and then realized that we were putting this episode out like a month ago.
But our this episode might come out either
we're not saying
around
it's gonna
come out closer to that date. Okay.
Hey, we're very busy judging by our last conversation. We got a lot of stuff to do.
Okay.
Nalin's up till 1 a.m. pumping this editing out. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm editing this one.
Oh, Perrin, no.
Okay, all right then.
Continue.
Okay, so
some shade.
So it ends on November 11th, and I want to talk about some facts that I found just about World War I that you might not know, just because they're interesting, and yeah. So fact number 1 on my list would be that on a battlefield in France, there was a giant explosion.
Well, like how giant?
Whoa.
Like 900,000 pounds of explosives giant.
Whoa, that's pretty heavy. That's almost
big.
That's almost as heavy as my cat.
And this was... I mean, you're not wrong. Okay, so about 900,000 pounds of explosives at about 100 feet underground in tunnels dug by a group of miners underneath...
Whoa, they conscripted miners into this?
Underneath trenches.
Like how young, though? Like 8?
What?
Perrin,
Well,
not that
miners.
kind of miner. Under trenches on the German side, and completely blew up all of the trenches.
Oh, jeez.
And it was heard. The explosion was heard 140 miles away
Holy cow.
by England, and yeah, that's a big explosion.
Yeah, no kidding.
It basically blew up a mountain.
Seriously?
Well, not like a huge mountain, but more like
How many thousand feet tall?
I don't know the exact dimensions, but it was a good sized hill.
So we're talking like Ithaca definition of a mountain, not like Oregon.
No,
definition of a
we're
mountain.
talking like a train could pass through it, kind of a mountain.
Okay, so we're talking
So a good sized hill.
All right.
And yeah, all right indeed. And that's one of the largest it's one of the largest, if not the largest explosion, man-made explosion that was not nuclear in history.
That's got yeah, no kidding. That's got to just take a lot of time to get that much explosive.
Yeah, I mean, you have a point.
So what else you got?
What else I got? So, as all the men went off to war, and in the front lines, etc., women had to take their place in the factories and the jobs, and that actually, and the women who worked in TNT plants, the chemicals that they were working with actually dyed their skin yellow.
Oh my god.
Those are not some fun chemicals.
Yeah.
That's some extreme makeup.
I know, right?
It's like a very wrong version of fake tan.
Yeah, actually.
Wow.
And a similar a similar occurrence to that was that soldiers coming home with facial injuries, like really bad deformities, and scars, nobody really likes having those things. So World War I actually pushed for the development of plastic surgery.
Huh.
And
Wow.
it's the reason why we have plastic surgery today, or at least the technology
Really?
for that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So like, did it work?
Yeah, it
like,
works.
They had the technology developed pretty soon afterwards, or
Pretty soon afterwards. Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It was more so the
Rudimentary.
development started during the war, and was finalized sometime in very late into the war and the end of the war.
Oh, so it was like done by the end of the war, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thick interesting.
And also the youngest British soldier was 12 years old.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
That's
That's
rough, dude.
really, really harsh. I mean,
Little Jimmy in
imagine
You're not even out of middle school.
Yeah. Imagine being
You might not even have an education.
actually
at
a
that point.
6th grader.
Yeah.
And going off to war.
Jesus.
Little Jimmy got some problems.
Got a
No.
lot of problems.
Yeah.
And not only that, but as you've seen with history and Germany, World War I nearly caused a financial meltdown in vast number of European countries, and actually did cause financial meltdown in others.
Yeah, I mean, costs a lot to wage a war.
Yeah, and the whole idea of donating blood and blood banks
Came from
came from World War I, because
that-
they needed blood for
wounded soldiers.
Wounded soldiers.
They were losing blood. Yeah.
And also ships. This one's actually really fun, and I really, really like this one. Ships were painted with very bright colors and patterns so that they looked like civilian ships.
Oh.
So they used a hiding in plain sight technique.
How effective was it?
Actually, it was pretty effective because
Really?
you go by, a German destroyer and they'd be like, they just, wave at you.
I have this
hi.
image of like people trying that in modern way. You've got like a giant aircraft carrier and it's just painted like got a big Mickey Mouse on the side. Don't mind the jets. Those are our attractions.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't so much cartoon characters as it was patterns, just to kind of, make it look weirder, or like misshapen if you're looking through a telescope. And finally, this one's actually good, and you wouldn't necessarily think it. It's very counterintuitive. 9 out of 10 soldiers survived the trenches.
Oh, that's nice. Though, I mean, that's 1 in 10 that died.
While that is a lot, 9 out of 10 survived.
Yeah.
And considering how this is World War I,
9 out of 10 soldiers recommend surviving.
While that is a lot, the fact that many in
Survived
World War I
trenches.
trench warfare, which is some of the harshest warfare that has happened in history, considering the conditions, actually survived it. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But it also goes to show how ineffective that style of war was.
Right. War of attrition.
Yes.
So, that's about all the time we have for today. Sorry we didn't get to your topic, Elliot. We will make sure that's covered in the next one.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least
we'll have more free time. I don't have to write a new topic.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, true.
So, thank you guys for watching. This has been a walk in the woods.
Listening?
Watching?
They're watching, all right.
Watching with their ears.
Exactly.
Watching sonally. Sonally.
Yes. Thank you for listening to A Walk in the Woods. This has been Perrin, Leo, Elliot, and Nalin signing off.
Yeah.
Is that how we're going to end it?
That's how we're going to end it.
I guess so.
That's how we're going to end it.
That's it.
All right.
Woo!